Hi, I'm Antonia Blythe, and this is 20 Questions on Deadline. This week, I'm talking to Rebekке Ferguson. She recently reprised her role of Lady Jessica in Dune Part 2, and she's currently starring as Juliet in Silo, the dystopian drama series from Apple TV+.
2 nights ago, I was up really late and I was like, oh, I would be less tired if I hadn't stayed up till 3 a.m. the night before finishing Silo. I keep thinking about it, and that's always a sign that something's really good. You know, if you feel the show even after you've stopped.
What is it you think about, without any spoilers?
It's the aesthetic that was built in the show, and it's Juliet's character, your character. Her mindset of being both reluctant and the bravest person.
What I'm realizing with this show is there are so many aspects of it that you can't really describe. So how do you promote something that you're in love with, that is so good and so compelling and psychological and philosophically?
We're leaving that in, by the way.
Yeah, we should put it on a loop. Philosophically, what do you call it? Like intoxicating, like the questions that they raise. But when I ask people what they like, it gives me an idea of what has become gripping. Because for me, it's different. I know that I love building the character. I love the idea of this world underground. And I love the idea of us as human beings. This is basically the show. It's a moment in time, and we can't say the reason to why, and it comes later on in season 2 that we just finished filming. The panic of getting everyone underground happens very quickly. So it's basically whatever you have on your body or in your hands gets locked in. Boom, that second. 10,000 people in a silo underground. What is that world like 200 years in the future? Or 150 years? Recycling. We've got some animals in. We can create. We can have farmland, agriculture. But what is that world? It kind of stands still.
To me, apart from Juliet, it's her trajectory is like your classic hero's journey, which, you know, I defy any human not to love the hero's journey. It always sparks that, you know, deep emotional connection.
But it's exciting, isn't it?
It's
learning with the protagonist. I mean, it's getting information as this time she gets information. It's not like the show is trying to out-clever you. It is secrets that are hidden, but you follow the information with her. And the unraveling is so gruesome and horrible and traumatizing that you see the evolution of the characters in the decisions they make.
I think the thing that's really stuck with me is the blind faith that most of the people have, and what makes one or two people refuse that blind faith, and what is the inherent thing in them that makes them not dance to everyone else's tune. And that's what's in Juliet. Even though she doesn't want it to be there, it just is. She can't help it.
And I sometimes think, I wonder which person I would have been. Where would I
think that too. Would I have wanted to go outside?
Yeah. Would you have been brave enough to be the one to push boundaries? And this is society, right? I mean, we have religion. We have the monotheic religions, the big ones and small ones. But in this silo, it's all been taken away. For some reason, history has been deleted, right? All of these things we'll figure out. But we don't have God. We don't have anyone to refer to. We have a book, The Pact. And in there tells the story of why we have no elevators, why we're not allowed to communicate in a certain way. And you look at it and think, we as humans were so easy to herd.
That's it. It's terrifying. Everyone that blindly believes in arbitrary rules. And then those certain people that cannot, even if they wish they could. Because she can't roll over.
Well, it's hard, but it's also her life. Nothing is hard if it's the life you've been brought up in, right? You know, whether it's war, whether it's abuse, it's not difficult until you have a contrast. So it's just life, isn't it?
You mean the adaptability of everyone,
It's
the
just,
Stockholm syndrome of it
yeah,
all.
everything becomes life until you get some reference point to something else that you like better or dislike.
Mm.
And that's also what I love. This character, she's born in the middle. So there's a hierarchical setting, right? Which would happen. The people in power would always be up top, literally up top.
Mm.
You have the worker bees and then or the middle class, the doctors, the lawyers, whatever it is, and then you have the mechanics at the bottom who basically make society run, which is interesting.
Isn't
Yet they're
it?
the greasy ones who, in quotation marks, eat rats kind of thing. But she actively, as a very intelligent child, for various traumatizing reasons, decides to go from the middle down.
That to me is fascinating.
Yeah.
That she gives the finger to everybody after what happens to her mother
Mm.
and the distrust she has for her father. She basically says, I will absent myself from this society. She's like kind of the teenager that gets all the piercings and gets into being a goth, but
Yes.
in a way that's much more profound and less
Yeah.
transient.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
it's not a rebellious state. I think it is there is nothing left for me here because emotionally you aren't there to support me. And she was so young. So going down and working with, she's figuring out that she's very practical, and practicality is where down all the way down deep, right?
Mm.
But there she's furthest down in the hierarchical setting. So now coming from the middle, she's now all the way down into the down deep, but she's so far down on that hierarchical setting, she has to work herself up in the down deep, which is, it's all just, I love it. I love
It's just so clever. I actually I sneaked because I knew you were shooting season 2, and I looked at the plot of the books, and I'm just, I get to talk to you and a lot of the people involved, Graham Yost, on Sunday.
Graham
Again,
is
as a group.
amazing.
Yeah, and I have so many questions about how close you stick to the books and whether we're going to see Juliet do what I think she's going to do. I don't want to
I
spoil
couldn't
it.
possibly say, but could you guess? No, don't guess. Do it when the camera thingies are off.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
So I want to get to the 20 questions portion of
Yes.
things, but
Let's do
before
this.
I do, I have to tell you, I heard a story the other day and I was thinking of you. I knew I was going to meet you, and I was like, oh, Rebecca's worked with Tom Cruise many times.
Mhm.
And I'd heard this lovely story that when the lady that makes the famous Tom Cruise cake,
Mhm.
she passed away last year,
Oh.
and he called her when she was dying
Mhm.
and had this conversation with her to thank her for, I guess, all her work. And because he had taken this coconut cake and made it famous because he, gifts it to everyone. And I just thought that's such a Tom Cruise thing to do, because all the stories around him are about how he goes above and beyond.
Mm.
And I hear the story and I'm like, that sounds on
Tom,
brand.
I think, would sit and be very happy and kind, and it's always nice. But I think Tom also likes being referred to as a normal, kind human being. And I think if you've ordered a cake from someone for about 20 years, I would assume that you would maybe give that person a call as well. I think what it is, it's a grand gesture and it's kind. And I'm not saying we're not lifting Tom. I think there's just an air of respect and general kindness. And I think it's quite sad that a story like that becomes so blown up. He's calling a woman who made a cake. I'm not trying to turn it. My point is, we should be kind. And Tom is so famous that we as humans look at him and think, oh my God, someone like Tom wouldn't. But I know Tom, and I know Tom would. So for me, I go, yeah, I understand, but of course Tom did that because he cares and he's extremely kind and he's devoted to people around him. But I forget that other people expect huge celebrities to not care. Can you imagine the stories if they were different in our interviews?
Yeah.
I'm not sure we'd be called back to work, honey.
Oh, I don't know.
Tom is not a wet blanket and fluffy clouds and bloody sugar candy floss.
Yeah.
No. Tom is hardcore. He works hard. He's tough, but he laughs and he jokes and he's kind and he's organic.
I think it's just really nice to hear that and to come across any human in any scenario, regardless of fame, where they consistently show up
Well,
as their
yeah.
best self.
Most of the huge actors I work with are super kind and super professional. And that is not taking Tom and not saying, but he's one of the biggest superstars in the world. And I think our expectations of him are very different. But what I'm trying to say is he's kind of just a normal guy. And I have met that in most of the most incredible actors I've worked with.
That's really good to hear. Yeah. I am conscious of time. I could talk to you about everything other than the 20 questions
Oh, yeah, we like
for a full hour easily. But I do want to get
Yep.
into some let's look at your childhood.
Oh,
No,
gosh.
I'm just kidding. But actually,
No, let's do it.
when I was reading about you, one of the facts I came across, and you can dispel this notion if it's completely wrong,
Okay.
is that your mum
Mhm.
translated for ABBA. Is that right?
Yeah, so
Which is amazing
the
little fact.
accurate story is, because I don't have it fully, she was a part of, and I think she hung with them for some time. So I know that there's an LP cover, and there's a woman in a chair with a cigarette, I think, and you see the gang in front of the camera, and that's my mum in the chair. And I think some of their clothes were hers, and I think she helped translate Waterloo, or she was in the room. I don't know to what point, but yeah.
But she was part of that crew.
She was, and I don't know how long. I don't know how that works. You know, a story's a story that trickles, but hell, I wasn't there. I'm going to stick with they were besties.
I think it's so great.
I know. I wish I had the clothes. She was like, I didn't know it was going to be a big thing.
So there's no hidden box in the attic? Nothing?
None.
Okay. Well, damn. Okay.